call David Seymour, 5 minutes.
Mr Speaker, I rise on behalf of the ACT Party in support of these bills, and I just want to reflect a bit on the road that brought us to making this bill, is that we do have in New Zealand very high house price income ratios. In Auckland, where I'm from, a ratio of almost 9 between the median house price and the median income. And when you have a problem in a political marketplace, sure enough, a whole range of different remedies are provided. We saw remedies from Mr Twyford that was to blame people with Chinese-sounding names, and it might interest the member to know that I've had reports of Chinese real estates on the North Shore who are using Labour's data to demonstrate that they really do have lots of demand from Chinese buyers. So sometimes in politics you create unintended consequences, but you do have to admire the entrepreneurship, particularly of real estate agents and New Zealanders, if that's who they happen to be. And of course, it's not just the Labour Party that has indulged in this demand-side issue so far as the housing market, but also decided to engage in xenophobic racism. The New Zealand First Party, of course, have made it their stock in trade. Jacinda Ardern is horrified at what the party has done to her opportunities to compete in Auckland Central. And of course, the Green Party only last week.
Order, member.
Speaker,
Come back to the content of the bill.
One more sentence, Mr Speaker. Only last week, Julianne Genter, of all people, that doyen of liberalism, also said the problem is foreign capital. And so we find ourselves here today trying to find a way to measure just how many of these nasty foreigners are on the demand side of this housing market. And so the government has found it necessary to do something to at least placate the howling masses on the other side of the House. And that is the reality, Mr Twyford. Yes, it is. I mean, let's tell it like it is, Mr Twyford. And yes, of course, there are all sorts of loopholes that will never be properly policed. It will be very difficult to decide if a lifestyle block is truly being farmed economically. It will be very difficult to decide what a person's greatest connection to. You're just shocked because you've never seen a politician tell the truth before, especially in your party. Sorry, Mr Speaker.
Member will sit.
All right.
To make an allegation like that is unparliamentary, and I'll ask the member to withdraw and apologise for it.
Oh, I withdraw and apologise.
David Seymour.
Mr Speaker, but we also have to consider, in this case, the costs and benefits of regulation. We heard from a member earlier, let's have more compliance costs, let's have more administration, it's only a few dollars more. Well, Mr Speaker, I actually believe that given the unsavoury political prerogatives created by some of the simpler opposition members and more latterly by the usually sophisticated ones, actually this strikes the right balance of allowing people who wish to buy and sell homes to go about their business most of the time, but only when they get into a very large quantity of on-selling or speculation, as some may call it, will they find themselves so far over a so-called bright line that their activity will end up being recorded, will be clearly in contravention of the law. And so the worst extremes of what some people are concerned about as speculation will finally find itself reined in with minimal costs to compliance on the part of every other Kiwi who's fair-minded, who actually welcomes foreigners and the fact that we're a multicultural nation, and who wants to go about their business without being caught up in excessive compliance costs. With that, Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.